Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 5th. I'm James.
I'm Janae.
And we're back here again, once again, live in New York. We have an esteemed guest who has not shown up yet, but he will be here soon. Mr. Kaushik Tiwari. We can learn more about him. Just so you know, Janae, he was Peter Thiel 20 Under 20, as well as Y Combinator founder.
Wow.
And he's done a lot of stuff. So that'll be really cool. But why don't we see what happened over last night? There was a lot of stuff online.
Yeah, tell me about it.
One was, I don't know if you follow this guy. Let's see if we can see this. This guy, Riley Walls, over in San Francisco, he always does like kind of weird pranks. He what he does is he does a lot of projects where he looks at all the like public data and will do little projects around it. So he did one where you could track all the parking ticket people in San Francisco, so you can like see where they are instead of them tracking your car. He does a lot of like flipping stuff. Oh, he also made Gmail, which is like the Jeffrey Epstein Gmail login. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he comes out with a new project every like week or so. And this one was he scraped every single AMC movie showing and what the tickets are at all times. I'm still not clear how he did that, but he has a thing where, hey, do you want like a private theater? Here's all the empty theaters you can look at. So if you wanted to see Devil Wears Prada 2, let's see, we have what's a movie you're into right now? You been to the movies lately?
I haven't, unfortunately.
He, let's see. There's... Oh, weird. Here it is. Empty screening. That's what it's called. Switch to that. But yeah, basically you can put in your zip code and just... what is our zip code right now?
1002.
Nice. One of the earliest. So yeah, if you want to see Devil Wears Prada 2 seats, it's all right. Oh, Project Hail Mary. Heard it's a great movie. Haven't seen it yet. But if you want an entire theater yourself, this site will tell you where to book it. And you can just... It's actually a pretty good time, too, 10 p.m. You would think it'd be like a 2 p.m. theater or something.
Cool.
What's interesting is I think he shows you all screenings. I feel like, I don't know if this data is that easy to find. So you could actually look at how successful movies are. Even if they seem big online, you could actually look at the ticket sales and figure out, like, are these movies actually doing well? Are people actually buying them? Or is it just more hype? People are promoting it. I also want to, last time I was in San Francisco, I went to, here, let's see. Does this work? Yeah. This is a new thing I created where you can put images over our screen share, and you can move them around. But yeah, last time I was in San Francisco, I went to a theater, oddly enough, an empty theater, where they were showing a documentary on this guy, Riley Walls, about his making of the J-Mail, along with his roommate or friend. So, just a little serendipity there. What about you?
Do we want to cover some of the AI updates? I think
For sure.
one of the more interesting things was that there was about a 15% layoff at Coinbase. I think the more interesting thing is that all the job advice that's been going around. So let me see if I've sent it to you.
Is it the Andreessen one or the Zara
This is
one?
not that one.
Okay.
I'll send you it right now so you can have a look. It's how I think one of the things I find more fascinating is how even if AI doesn't replace your job, it's raising the bar for what people want out of you. I'm looking at this piece of advice here of people asking, hey, what do I do if I've gotten laid off? And it's talking about how you need to download Codex, figure out how to create a bunch of skills on GitHub, figure out how to make an agent, all these things.
Is it this one?
Yeah, exactly.
Tough day for folks. I think our friend may be outside trying to get
Let's go get him.
Do you want me to talk while you're doing it?
Go ahead.
This is the first time I'm seeing this. Oddly enough, I was looking at Kalshi over the last few weeks, and there was like a 99% return on giant layoffs starting as late as June or July. And so if you take Kalshi as any indicator that it might be telling the truth, then Then yeah, I guess it was right. Someone knew something. There's been a lot of these companies. Is there anyone there, Janae? Otherwise, tough day for folks. Is he there? It's just the wind. I have his live location. He is 1 block away, so I guess that's just the wind. But yeah, so who is this Clairvaux person? They work in tech, or they're at...
Founder of Chat PRD.
Interesting. And is this advice for any tech person or just anyone? Fashion?
Fashion is very obscure. It's
News reporters, you know, when
it's one of those things where you just sort of get pulled into it. You don't really actively.
It calls you, not you apply for it.
Well, I think the problem is that the gatekeeping mechanisms are much more abstract. So if you want to get in, you have to be let in. Whereas in tech, you can sort of demonstrate your skills, and it's much easier to get in.
Yeah. Do you remember
it's much more? I like the word legible.
Yeah. Do you remember like I don't remember when. This must have been before COVID, but it was basically like reporters and people in non-tech. They were like, "What do I do? I'm not making enough." And most people would be like, "Learn to code." That was like the advice.
Yeah, and now it's like learn to journalism. Isn't that interesting?
But yeah, they're saying, okay, download Claude Coder Codex. No, not OpenClaw. They're not claiming that one. And oh, interesting. Okay, so they're basically saying whatever career you're in, whatever path, try to make a skill around that so that other people can use that.
Yeah, I think the overall message here is the minimum complexity required to find work is increasing, right? Even if it doesn't matter what your like what the job requirements were. These job requirements are shifting very quickly under our feet, right? And so not only are roles changing, I think what you're going to have to do now is demonstrate a lot more of your competence, like proof of work, through things that are hard to replicate. But what is hard to replicate, right? That's the question. Like before you could design like a nice website, showcase your skills, have some projects, whatnot. Now, what does that minimum bar look like? Like, what do you need to show to be able to demonstrate your competence? Like, what are those signals that people are going to have to identify, and how do you show those?
For sure. There's I noticed from a few friends' companies as well as my own that like there was like 3 people doing the front end of most websites. It was like the front end dev, the designer, and the product manager. And it seems like in all cases the front end developer is the one who gets kind of kicked out. Either the designer or the product manager takes over. So if you're coding, yeah, it seems like for the first time in like, I guess since COVID, there's harder times. The job is completely flipped, as you said.
Yeah, and I think for more general predictions, here's something. I just sent it to you.
Oh, yeah? What is this one?
It's a list of trends and the direction that everything's going in.
Some human things I'm tracking. Is there more religious stuff? I haven't noticed that with certain friends. Although I have noticed that as people get older, they've been getting more into traditions. So that's interesting. They're talking about religious stuff.
I think the value of religion is the what ends up happening. I read an article not too long ago, I believe, how it was about how Christianity is still embedded within Western culture. It's just been abstracted away into different forms. So what you might call spirituality has been reduced, or what you call like religiosity has been reduced to spirituality. If you're interested in, for example, prayer has been reduced to meditation, or these group rituals have been reduced to, other things like group hangouts, whatever that might look like.
Yeah. Our esteemed friend Kaushik Tiwari is right outside.
Yeah, let me go get him.
Do you want? Okay.
Before we get too deep into religion.
I'm sure he has some thoughts on it. Also private members clubs. This is something I noticed in New York. There's these concept of a social club, which is like something typically has been like 45 and up, and people pay thousands of dollars to be a member every year, and it's like usually like a nice mansion, which is rare to find in New York City. And even just there's one even next door opening up that's claiming it's going to be a sound one. I think I've seen at least 5 open this year, which is one per month. Now, whether these are going to stay after a few years is unknown. Looks like we have someone joining in. Come in, Kaushik. Say hi to the live audience. Come on over. Yeah, we're recording. Come on in. 10:30, man.
Which way?
Right in the center, sir.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get the camera on you. The whole thing we've been trying to do is make everything automated, so we don't have like a person behind to change the screen. We'll have the software do it. Oh, here.
I'm getting cut.
You're getting cut. No, hold on. There you go. There you go.
Wait. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Well, you can see yourself there.
Yeah.
If you looking good on camera.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. This is great. Do we have a topic?
We got questions for you. You want to pull up a little bit?
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just so you're near the mic and more in focus.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, this is better. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, Janae didn't even know this, that you were a 20 under 20 founder.
Thiel Fellow?
I think, Thiel Fellow. So this, Peter Thiel, he's only funding, is he still doing this every year?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's still doing it. I think last time they recently just announced a new class. I think it's 15 people in it. I don't know if it's still 20 or 20, but it's a variable number. And they also like increased the age to like 23 kind of. I think to allow for more people who have had, maybe I don't think the answer is
20 exactly.
Yeah.
They actually started it like 3 months after I turned 21. So I assumed I shouldn't have applied, but now in retrospect, no one cares. You could just apply like I should have.
I don't think they ever asked to check my birth certificate or anything of that sort. So it's not like becoming the president of the of the country.
It's actually the same as 30 under 30. There's no check. They're just like, whatever.
But 20 under 20 has had a much more impeccable record than 30 under 30, for whatever it's worth.
It's more exclusive, and they've 100% done more.
Yeah.
And Peter Thiel himself is essentially,
He's the most famous out of all the Thiel fellows. I feel like Peter Thiel has done exceedingly well,
Yeah. I saw he's been funding a, island. Again, he's always funding these, cities and islands to, start a new tech.
Yeah, so I think there was something called the Seasteading Institute, which
there's Seasteading, there's Praxis.
There's Praxis,
There's, I think there's 3 or 4 he's up to. It's interesting.
I mean, I think the whole idea was, again, Peter Thiel believes globalization isn't the right answer, right? We, instead of progressing further, automating things, moving up the technology chain, we decided to kind of make cheap labor kind of was the answer. And so what we ended up happening was jobs were exported to China, to India, whatever. That led to a lot of lack of social cohesion, breakdown in the US, and that's kind of the result of what you see right now. Is basically, I don't think he thinks globalization is the answer. I think things like ascending up the technology value chain is the answer. And I think, cheap labor kind of breaks it down, and policies, also part of that.
No, it's super political in some ways. So what was your experience? That was your first intro to Silicon Valley, right? In startups?
Yeah, no, I moved, I came to the US in 2012 for undergrad at Columbia. And then 2 years later, I was on the plane to San Francisco, living in a house with 20 other kids who
with a few $100,000.
We were given it was a monthly payment. It wasn't you don't get a $100K check to just blow it up in one day. But
smart.
Yeah, but it was sort of a stipend type of a thing, like a scholarship, just to kind of allow you to do whatever you want with that money. And it was really fun. I think Vitalik was my class in 2014. So he was kind of sleeping on the couch. Ethereum pre-sale hadn't happened yet.
Was he like a crypto bro? I've never met him.
No, I think Vitalik is the opposite of a crypto bro. He's the most sort of he will try to he'll try to be as nondescript as possible in the room. You wouldn't realize that he's usually a center of gravity because of his achievements and because of his intellect, but not because he tries to throw his weight around or is trying to be a Miami flashy bro.
So he's not boasting. He's not.
No, not at all. Yeah. No, I think I think his motivations are very different from a lot of people in crypto.
Yeah. What was the first week of the 20 under 20? So you fly to SF, and then what? Do you have to find your own place? Is there a hacker house?
They got us a hacker house. It was a 12-bedroom house in the Mission District that was a startup called Build Campus, run by another Thiel fellow called Tom Courier.
Nice.
And Build Campus thesis was essentially like adults need like dome, like not dome-like living, but like shared living spaces, basically. So that was kind of visionary, because even now we have
True.
like cohabs and stuff are still around in the US. It's hard to make that model work, but he was doing that back in 2014, and it was a shared living space, all the amenities, cleaning handled by staff. So we just had our rooms, and then the first week was basically a bunch of like orientation. We had the under 20 summit. They still do it, I think, or maybe they stopped it, but they used to do this under 20 summit to like spread the word to other people in the community. So even if you didn't get accepted to 20 or 20, you could still get invited to the under 20 summit.
Oh.
Yeah. And meet it. So I remember, like, I think the under 20 summit happened in the San Francisco Mint building, or like it looked like the Mint building in Soma.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was like 200-300 people. There were a bunch of like lightning talks, everyone from like Aubrey de Grey talking about like life extension, which ideas at that
yeah.
point seemed like pretty out of the world for me. Like, I think this is the thing that I kind of being in the Thiel orbit and like being part of that Founders Fund, Mithril and family. Like we had like Nigel Farage, who was the head of UKIP, like the UK Independence Party, which in 2016 further created, like, they essentially created the Leave Britain Left Europe.
He was in 20 or 20?
No,
Or
he
like
came. He was
mentor
a speaker. Like, he was not a speaker 20 or 20. He was a speaker to the Thiel community. He came to speak at Founders Fund. But every month or every 2 weeks, we would have like General Stanley McChrystal, who was like head of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. We had a guy from like Roscosmos, which is the Russian space agency, come and talk about, like, he was a global warming critic. So come and talk about what, because Thiel invites people who like challenge the established truth right now. So if everybody thinks global warming is happening and, that is going to destroy us, like, he wants to hear the other side, So,
right. He wants everyone. He's also the only one who seems to be able to, like, when he throws a party, he can get Zuckerberg to show up, as well as JD Vance, as well as like just everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these people owe him. Like, Zuckerberg got his first check from Peter Thiel. JD Vance, like, Peter, he literally has said that, like, Peter Thiel, like, literally gave him his first job out of Yale Law School, right? Like, helped finance his, like, senatorial run. Like, Peter Thiel has been a big push behind his career. So a lot of these people owe him, their careers pretty much, and like to a certain extent. So obviously they're in much bigger places now, but when they started, like, Peter was the person who saw the talent in them and, gave them the first check or gave them the first push. So
Just like he did to you.
I mean, yes, and I'm still sort of trying to make it all worthwhile. I'm not sure if the bet has worked out right, but we'll see, We'll see.
I wonder what his evaluation criteria looks like, because not only did he choose one good bet, but he bet on all these people who have become exceptional successes.
It's a good point. So Y Combinator does a 10-minute interview. What was the 20 or 20?
So 2020, I mean, the process changed a lot since then. This was like 10 years ago. But when I applied, it was like kind of a typical college application. So you had to like get in an application before December 31st, which is the deadline for colleges. So they were trying to essentially set themselves up as a substitute, as an alternative to college, right? So that way it made sense to kind of align the application schedule similar to the college schedule. So you would submit an application, basically a bunch of like essays, right? Like talk about like the biggest challenge you face, talk about like, kind of like a YC application. So you'd submit that, it would go through a round of interview, you would hear back, do a Zoom interview with one of the mentor sets in the Thiel network. The Thiel network in the Bay Area is huge. So there's like founders, investors, executives at big companies, they're all part of that. So I had a call with someone who was like big into biotech, Ryan Bethencourt, that's his name. And so I had a call with him. It was like a 30-minute Zoom call just to kind of understand, figure out what's going on. Then I hear back that I'm getting invited to San Francisco to fly down to SF.
Right.
And so they invited 40 people to fly down to SF. It was like a weekend. They gave us like, free hotels, and there was a bunch of like round of like talks and interviews. So, it was like a talk, like then an interview with like a pull-aside interview with one of the members of the Thiel family, and so you kind of do that. And over the whole week, they sort of like judge you based on like character, based on, what your motivations are, the strength of the project that you're working on. And then, you go back home and a week later you hear back. Like, so I got an email saying, hey, we wanted to speak to you. Thank you so much for meeting with us. We just wanted to speak to you over a Zoom call, which I thought was a polite no. Like they were just
yeah.
being like, oh, like I guess I didn't get in, but they want to like lessen the blow. So I just got on the Zoom, and then it's all the whole team, and they're like, hey, by the way, we just wanted to let you know that Peter would like to invite you to the fellowship, and like that was like, you know, like a life changing sort of one of those moments where I really do remember that moment, you know, being on that computer, like talking to, you know, and then them being like, yeah, like you got in, and like it was a whole sort of a big, you know, like ruse that they had planned to kind of get it. But yeah, and then you know, fast forward a few months, in June I flew down to SF. They took care of all the housing, so it was much easier.
Did they ask you that one question he asked everyone? Like, what's one thing you or contradict the normal belief? I forgot the whole question.
What's one thing that you believe that nobody else does?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was like some version of that. It's been a while, but I think it was much more like my answer was much more like focused on like whatever project I was working on. I was building something in healthcare that allowed medical tourism to be made easier. So there's a lot of people who fly to like Mexico or to like, you know, India or to other countries to kind of access cheaper healthcare. And I was basically building like an Airbnb for hospitals. So the idea was like you would essentially vet hospitals so that they meet a minimum criteria. There's no surprises, so we would have a quality rating.
Outside the country.
Outside the country. It wasn't like
still a good idea.
Yeah, I mean,
there's not really a company that does that.
that's. I mean, that was the time when Obamacare was coming in, like 2014. So like I was fresh off the boat, like, you know, 2 years in. So I was like, what is the biggest problem that America has? And you open up the TV and it's like Obamacare. And so I was like, okay, healthcare is kind of it. And so like I sort of like went into healthcare and then just kind of pivoted into myself into this thing. And then, you know, I think I said something along the lines of like, you know, like people have the ability to move basically, which is true, right? People will find, you know, people are moving countries. Everyone's, you know, passport bros are a thing now. Like a lot of Americans are like checking out of America and flying to like Dubai or flying to like Ukraine or flying to like Philippines and Thailand, Bali, right?
Not
to,
Ukraine now, right?
I mean, a lot of people are going to Ukraine, it seems like, you know, as well. I mean, yes, yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, I think I said something along the lines of like, you know, like, which sounds like a good way to pitch it. It's like, okay, people will choose the best government they can, you know, like you can't really stop, you know, smart people or people with resources to stop moving. And I think that sounded kind of smart. And, you know, obviously you're trying to impress the other person. So, which is not the point of the question. The point of the question is to kind of arrive at a fundamental truth. But I was also like a 19-year-old trying to get into this fellowship. So you can't really, you know.
Yeah. You don't know much. Did you have any impressions of the 20 under 20 world or anything, Janae?
I didn't even know about it, actually.
Yeah.
I knew about the Thiel Fellowship.
Would you have applied
I knew about the Thiel Fellowship, but I didn't know about the 20 under 20.
I mean, it's
like
the same. It's the same thing.
It's just literally an age. It's just another phrase for it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just because they used to accept 20 people under the age of 20, so they call it 20 under 20 as sort of again, they were trying to set themselves up as a sort of an allegory, like, or a sort of a opposition to other things. So because they had the 30 and the 30, they wanted to come up with something that was like catchy. So they came up with 20 under 20. So I think they were all trying to set it up against the established hierarchies. So college was a hierarchy. You know, Forbes 30 and 30, like, oh, you could only be successful if you're 30. But the whole point was, no, you could be successful if you're 20 or 18 or 19 or 16, 17, you know? Yeah.
I think it'd be a hard sell for me just because the purpose of university, at least for me, is the socialization aspect. Like it decides like not only who you're going to be friends with, but who you're going to be friends with after the fact, because your circles end up being, you end up entering the extended circles of the people that you end up with, right? And the people that you're around end up holding major positions in various institutions that you might want to be a part of. But I guess this is obviously more selective, so you could get something similar out of this, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not friends with a ton of people from my college, even though I went to school in New York. Like, after I graduated, like, most people have just sort of moved on, you know?
Or they move out, a different industry.
Yeah.
Also, doesn't some percent of the Peter Thiel fellows go back to college, too?
I did. Well, I was one of those percentage. But yeah, like,
so they get the shot and the college. That's a pretty good deal.
I think for me, it was just, I mean, they were very helpful through that decision for me. Like, when I did almost a year and a half of it. And then I remember going in August, I was, you know, I had done a whole year and it was July or August of the next year, like the next sort of year starting. And I was there in the fellowship offices and I was just telling them like, hey, look, you know, I'm an international student, right? I got to figure out my visa situation. I have the scholarship at Columbia that pays for my education. There's family, but the biggest thing is I don't have no clue what I'm doing. Like I didn't know what I was doing in my startup. Like I had a healthcare idea that I was working on for the longest time with my co-founder, who I met through the fellowship. Like great guy. He currently works at OpenAI, my previous co-founder. Nice. But you know, the idea didn't really work, and we sort of got to a point where we weren't able to get pilots. Like, like we had a product, but just it was very hard to get someone to adopt it. And so we were like, we didn't know go to market, so we didn't know how to get customers and all that. And so, and we were building in healthcare where we didn't have any relationships. So it was like, so I told them, I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I could spend the next year just like figuring it out and like doing that. And then they were like, look, building a startup is hard enough, and building a startup when you're not 100% in it is much, much harder. So what we would recommend, and we would totally support your decision if you do choose to like leave the fellowship and go back to school. And, I think that was very helpful of them, in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you end up?
I did. I ended up going back to college. Like I took a year off from Columbia, and then I went back to college. I graduated a year late. So I was class of 2016, but I ended up graduating in 2017. But yeah, like I ended up going back to school, and like looking back, I think it was not the best decision.
So you lost the fellowship essentially.
I mean, I didn't lose it. I just sort of, I'm still part of the community, But
There's no losing it. It's like a mafia.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still part of the community. Like, there's a WhatsApp group that I'm part of. There's fellowship events that happen. I think there's one happening in Miami in June, which I'm going to say every year they do like a fellowship summit where all past fellows are invited. I went to one in Miami last year. There was one happening this year. So I'm still part of that community. I think I just did not like take the rest of the money. Basically, I still left some money on the table. Basically, I was like, look, I don't get the whole thing. Basically, yeah.
So that's not a bad deal then.
No, it's fantastic. Is there anything in the tech news over the last week that's been driving what you're building now?
I mean, the tech news, Twitter is not a good thing to like build on, but it is good to sort of see where the signals are. Like, the thing that's been exciting to me is like, I don't know, like, it seems like YC companies are cracking, like millions of ARR like every week. Like, so that was kind of, I remember, so I saw this comment by someone that said like, there's a company in this current YC batch that's closing $1 million in ARR every week, basically.
Every 2 weeks. Right?
Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. Yeah. And so I remember posting that on the YC internal group chat. And then people got kind of mad. Like a lot of people were like, either like, this is complete fraud. Like, how can this happen? If you can close money, like if the revenue is so quick, will it also leave the door that quickly, right? If it says, or how are you calculating it? Because that's a question.
But even if they're multiplying it by 12, whatever, that's still what, like that's 50K every 2 weeks? That's still pretty, that's
amazing.
Yeah.
That's really good. And
probably like a 6-month-old company or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, but the questions that have sort of come out of that is like, like people have concerns about how people are calculating ARR. YC did put out an explanation of how to calculate ARR.
Oh,
I think.
Nice.
Yeah, they did put out something that like, I think because they want to be on the right side of the thing, right? They don't
Is it just times it by 12?
I don't know. I don't actually haven't. I mean, people said like I can give you, but people can say like I can give you $1 right now. I can give Junaid the $1 right now, and he can divide by the minutes in the year.
Right. If you get this much a day, can I multiply?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm like, how many minutes are in a day, and then how many minutes are in a year, and then that's like $1 trillion company right there. Like
I think most investors though are wise to this thread and want to know like what does that mean when you say. I assume.
I think the answer is that I think most good investors are able to crack through that. I don't think anybody's investing after hearing like 20 million ARR or like 1 million ARR. Like, I think it's just a way to get eyeballs, right?
Yeah,
and anyone who's
also a lot of these people, the revenue doesn't matter. It's some other thing. It's the hype, the story, their background, whatever wave they're riding.
Yeah,
that's true. I also think I find this phenomenon in general like very interesting, where when you say something, it's sort of, I don't want to call it manifesting, but as soon as you say, hey, we've cracked this much ARR, people just assume the success, which then entices them to work with you, which then manifests it literally in reality. Right? Because you sort of say that we're successful, people want to work with those companies that are successful, and then it just brings in more and more clients.
What's the number where you think it's successful? $50 ARR, you're like, whatever.
No.
But 1 million sounds impressive, right?
Yeah, or if you say something like 11 Labs recently said, we just crossed like 500 million like ARR, right? You look at something like that, you're like, wait, 11 Labs is doing that well? Like, it must be a great product, right? And you take a look, you might want to click around a little bit, check out what it's about.
Or you might get talent, or you might get good talent. Too, right? Yeah, like so. A lot of really amazing salespeople, like a lot of salespeople in the valley are like very strategic with the companies they join, right? Because they're always spending like 2 years here, 2 years there. So like they want to maximize at that inflection point when the company's sort of blowing up, where they can get the biggest like payouts and incentives. So if you're like a top salesperson at like Datadog or like at like IBM or doing like these like $10 million ARR contracts with big companies, like you would see that, you'd be like, oh, I should maybe apply to 11 Labs, because like I can make like, because they have a good product, they have momentum, people know them, like, I can accelerate that. I can maybe, if I close 100 million a year for them, right, that's like I get 10 million of that, 10% of that. And like I think 11 Labs has said that they have very strict quotas for their salespeople. So they say that everyone has to meet at least 1 million or something or at the end of the year. If you don't meet it, you get cut out. Basically, yeah. So everyone gets certain quotas. So yeah, I mean, but they're in the stage where they're accelerating, right? They have their product dialed down. They have
there used to be a public Notion doc or Google doc where employees are like, here's the companies you have to join to become a millionaire in like 5 years, and it was like it needs to be Series B, must be raised this much, and there was sort of like a list of like likelihood that it would be a rocket ship or IPO or something.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you see the prototypical like Silicon Valley executive, right? They haven't spent like, they will have probably a stint like 7 years at Facebook, 7 years at Google, but after that they only have stints of like 2-3 years. So they're always jumping from one hot startup to another. So they'll go like, I saw recently someone, like I was just reading about this, there's a school called Tessellations in Silicon Valley, which is a private school. It's a private school. There was this whole Wall Street Journal article about it where there was a huge debate happening, and because they're having conflict between the founder and the board, and like it's a private school that was like K to 12. Now they've cut it down to K to 8. But like one of the board members was this guy called Peter Deng, and I googled him. I looked him up on LinkedIn, and he was like at Facebook for like 7 years, and he was at OpenAI for like, he was at like Airtable for 2 years, OpenAI for 2 years, and now he's a VC. So it's like, like it's like, oh, you're just switching. And then I saw
he created the school too.
No, he's like the board. He's on the board. Yeah. So I think his like kids go there, whatever. He's on the board. But I'm like, he was mentioned in the article, so I like Googled him, and I was like, oh, what does this guy do? And I'm like, okay, and like the person who recently got the Roblox, like the Microsoft like job, like the woman who got the job in Microsoft to do like Xbox gaming or whatever. Like if you look at her, like sort of like resume as well, like one long stint like somewhere which like establishes credentials, and after that they're just like the executive, if you were the company that like, your VCs are on your back, like, hey, you got to increase revenue, and the founder is like, you've raised a bunch of money, now you have to prove it. You just go to a search firm and you go like, hey, find me the most credible name that can like, like take some of the load off me, like, assuage my investors, right? I can go to my investors, tell them, look, this great guy is joining me, right? And like that guy is probably getting a nice payout. I don't know. It feels very mercenary to me. It doesn't feel like why would you switch?
I've been doing, I don't know why I had boredom, but I've done 2 or 3 board interviews for different things over the last week.
Yeah.
Like there's, actually Janae shared this news over here about someone saying that private members clubs are becoming bigger.
Yeah.
And so I was doing board interviews for some of these social clubs around Manhattan, as well as New York has something called like a community board, who I guess reports to like a council member or something. They don't really have any power, but you make recommendations, and the council member has almost never gone against it. So you can decide like how tall the buildings are in your neighborhood, or like who gets a liquor license. And so, it's been interesting to do these interviews and see who else is on this board. It's not like anyone's like qualified. It's generally people with enough time and care enough to like have interviewed.
Totally.
Because they don't get, most of these boards, you don't get paid. Like you're not really, or you get paid such a small amount that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. A lot of these things depend on just having the free time to be able to do them. Right. Like, for example, like in the fashion world, there's so many model castings that go on throughout the middle of the day, like mornings and afternoons. You're not going to make these unless you're, if
full-time.
You're employed. Right.
How long do you have to wait in line? Or
it depends on how big it is, right? It depends on how many people there are, but usually it ends up being like a little group, right? Everyone hangs out, they see each other at the same ones. You're like, hey, I saw you, and it ends up becoming almost like a networking thing.
It almost sounds like open mics for comedy. You're just
I haven't been doing a comedy open mic, but
do they look exactly the same? Everyone's wearing a black shirt, and
you have to. You have to. Yeah,
less attractive though. Usually.
What was
the open mic?
The open mic. That's funny. Yeah. So everyone's required to wear like all black, form fitting, and you're supposed to bring like a little card that has all your measurements on it and some of your portfolio pictures. You have like your headshots, side angles, that sort of stuff. So everyone comes in. You get to sort of, you start judging people based on like how good their comp cards are, which is the thing with all the information on it. And so you kind of look and you're like, whoa, that's really good.
Is that like an
They must
American
be-
Psycho thing where like everyone's comparing, like, you know
Well,
that-
you don't compare each other's cards. You just kind of look and you're like, oh, wow, that guy,
Yeah,
that person must be at a, nice agency, or they've been doing this for a while.
because like higher quality stationery. Or?
Yeah, exactly. High
Yeah.
quality stationery. The photos are done well. Somebody comes in with like poor quality photos printed on like regular paper, or they say they don't even have one. All right, this guy's an amateur, right? So you come in prepared. It ends up kind of being like a little networking thing, right? You see everybody come in at the same time. You end up saying, hey, like, do you know about any other castings going on in the city, right? And then you just, as you like continue to meet people, it just becomes like this little circle that you end up building.
What's the competitive dynamics? Like, is it helpful to help the other person? Like, is it like not really? Should you tell them, oh, this
You know what,
go over
I'm
there.
going to the next
I love
one.
this question.
Yeah.
So the problem is people think that it's competitive, but it's not, because every agency or every show is looking for something different. Like if they want someone tall and lanky, like you're not gonna compete against someone unless they look almost exactly the same as you, right? So I never understood the people that take it like as a competitive thing. So I'm always sharing like all the info, like, hey, here's this going on, here's that going on, because I think the goodwill is always going to come back to you somehow, right? There's gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy sent me something.
But if you run into a guy your height and your hair length, is that your
I've
competition?
never met anyone that looks like me, so fortunately, I've not had to deal with that problem. But everybody, most of the people look unique, at least from my experience. And the other thing is, you end up in situations where once you do something for somebody, they end up reciprocating. So I ended up sending a casting to a girl who she got in, I didn't. She sent me something where I got in and she didn't.
Nice.
So it ended up working out, right? And the way I got my modeling contract was I was actually just trying to be helpful. There was a girl who was struggling to get like some photos at one of the major shows during New York Fashion Week. I helped her out. And then what ended up happening was her like agency owner showed up, and she's like, oh, meet this great guy. Like, he's so nice, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that lady was the one who ended up giving me the contract.
Wow.
So it was just through sharing goodwill. And I think in general, like, that's just a good, what's it called? Like a good, like operating procedure to have. I couldn't come up with a simpler word, right? It's like, as the more goodwill you put out, the more likely it is that that comes back to you, right? I think one thing a lot of people do, I don't know if you've seen like the little bell curve meme, but like, the people who are like the less intentional or less thoughtful about their actions end up doing the same thing as the people who are very intelligent about their actions.
Yeah. It's
Right.
like an expert in a midwit or something.
Yeah, exactly, right? And what I've noticed is like the gap that gets you from there is courage, right? You might get screwed over a couple times, or you might lose out on a couple castings. But if you look at it as an iterated game that you're playing, like over like an infinite game that you're playing, what I've noticed is that if you just err on the side of, I might get screwed over a couple times, but I think in the long run, this is still good to do, you end up winning in the end, right? So I could have been very protective of like, oh yeah, I don't want to help everybody or whatever, but that just reduces your asymmetric upside. Like, yeah, you might lose out on a couple things, but like, who cares, right? I think the same thing applies in like relationships. Some people might be like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be very, guarded or defensive because I'm afraid that, this person might behave, this like, I might be too caring or something, right? If you look at it in isolation, the action itself, if you believe that the action itself cannot be wrong, then I don't think the outcomes can be wrong, right? It's a very, I think a lot of people look at some things like through like the outcomes. I think if like whether the act itself is fine, then you should be fine. So like there's nothing in the act of like sharing information or like sharing castings that is inherently wrong. So if I continue to do that, there's no way that I can, do something wrong. In the end.
So Met Gala was last night. Is that week like the top networking thing in the fashion world or not?
I think it's not as networking heavy because it's more exclusive. I think the main thing around these sorts of events is like the after events that you're able to go into. So
my favorite thing is, I don't know if you know, like on like in the tech world, they make parodies of Met Gala. So there's like Pet Gala, I saw a poster for. You
I didn't
bring
know
your
about
cat. There's like Tech Gala. They all just find one rhyme of Met and they throw like a party at the same time.
yeah.
I
think the overall thing here though is what I'm more interested in is not like these like, oh, I need to get into a particular show or whatever. I think it's the selection mechanisms, the underlying like selection mechanisms that are occurring, because I think those standards are held universally across wherever you go, right? Like as soon as you are approved by a modeling agency, like all of a sudden, like everybody wants to, have you in their show, right? Everybody is like much more interested. There's some private castings that only take people who have been signed by an agency, right? It's the first thing they ask you, right? Or even when you meet somebody who's a model, you say, "Oh yeah, which agency are you with?"
Yeah.
Right?
Who funded you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, is that the
It's
equivalent in the
essentially,
tech
yeah.
world?
Have you been funded by 16Z, YC, Peter Thiel?
Or like what series are you?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what series are you, right? So like I mean, wait, tell me more about this. When you get signed on, like are they gonna give you like a certain amount of money every month, or like what does signed on mean? Like what does that give you?
No.
Privileges of getting signed by an agency that they represent you.
I think it's
and
so
then they take a cut of your income, basically.
yeah,
right?
I do want to keep this tech centered, but I'm going to talk more generally about the actual like mechanisms that occur. So I think as with like getting funded, right? Imagine telling somebody, "Oh yeah, I'm a founder," right? Does that mean anything? I'm a funded founder. Now that sounds interesting. It's the same thing when it comes to modeling, right? If you say I'm a model, okay, I'm a signed model is much more interesting, right? So I think the selection dynamics or like the status dynamics that play within the modeling industry are very similar to what plays out in the startup industry, because you have to have been selected by some sort of institution to have them anoint you essentially,
Yeah.
and say like, okay, this person has been approved, right? I think the approval process matters a lot more, and you see this in relationships as well, right? Somebody becomes far more attractive as soon as they get, in a relationship because they've been selected.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So selection mechanisms in general apply, like regardless of the domain that you're a part of, and so I think that's something that I try to keep in mind whenever I'm operating in any sort of environment. Like, what is the hierarchy and what are the games that are being played in order for you to be seen as legitimized, right? It's typically institutions that have like institutions provide that legitimacy for you, whether that's Harvard, whether that's a modeling agency, whether that's a A16Z,
Yeah.
whatever, YC, right? So it just depends on the sort of environment that you're operating in and like who bestows that status on you.
Let's go through some of our X algorithm. Sorry, not
Sure.
Twitter.
Go for it.
What else did you see today? Oh, we were going through this Bingy thing about. They're basically just saying that all these non-tech things are on the up and up. So for religion, digital detox stuff, yeah. What were you trying to show me there? You sent me the link.
The members club
Mr.
piece.
Genet. Yeah, they were saying that. They were saying.
Oh yeah, let me pull it up for you.
That makes sense. Religious schools, pet daycares, pet insurance, human-only spaces. Oh, interesting.
I have seen a huge uptick in like events. Like I saw Anthropics paying or supposedly at least putting job offers out for people to throw events. I see that.
Yeah.
So this is
A16Z
interesting.
is calling it new media, where they're doing this as like live streams as well as in-person events as well.
I think a lot of startups have told me that like, dinners are much better than sending cold email, right? You go into a city like New York, you're trying to appeal to like, chief revenue officers, like do a nice dinner in a nice restaurant, like a Michelin star restaurant, send out invites to 20 CROs, right? Maybe 10 of them will accept, right? Because it's a free dinner after all. And you tell them, oh, this other person is joining, right? And then you come in and you do a nice dinner, everybody goes around. It's a way for them to meet other people in the space. And then you also get to like, talk about your product. So
Funny, we just
Yeah.
got through talking about selection mechanisms. I think the same thing applies to a lot of these events. I think one thing that I hate about the events business is events in general, or like these friend making things or networking things, is if the purpose of a group is to exit that group, eventually it's going to consist of people who can't. So for example, if you're in a group whose primary purpose is networking or whose primary purpose is making friends, right? Asymptotically, eventually, what it's going to consist of is people who otherwise couldn't make friends that need to keep going to these friend making events. Or like for a networking event, okay, like the people who have a network don't need to go to a networking event, right? So how do you deal with these sort of mechanisms that are at play? Like, I don't want to make friends with somebody not to be mean, but like I'm in plenty of circles, especially because of the connections that I have in the fashion industry, that I no longer need to go to events. I need to start filtering those events, and I need to start filtering who I'm associating
And is it
with.
because you have a common interest? Like you're all working in fashion? You have a similar jobs, or is it just a lot to talk about?
No, it's just because it's high status. Like everybody wants to, like you walk in somewhere and, everybody wants to be around us, right? Like, status, money, beauty, these are all things that are coveted, right? And so everybody's like pursuing these things.
Yeah.
So like you have just imagine being like an attractive girl, right? You've got hundreds of event offers. What do you do now? right? You can't attend all of them. So it's the same thing as being a high-powered CEO or someone who's like very wealthy. It's like you're getting invited to 100 different things. How do you make it enticing for them?
I've been surprised at how tight the Y Combinator community is. I wonder if it's because they all got money. Yeah, because otherwise, yeah, there's no, like, a lot of the people you're close with isn't even from your batch. Like, it's just you have some in just because you either have, I guess, because you have a startup and you got money from them. But
it's any sort of thing that acts like a barrier to entry, that acts as a signal for something, right? So, for example, like being funded means your idea has probably been legitimized. You probably have PMF. You're probably you're probably intelligent, whatever that might be. It's not just the idea. It's not just legitimizing the idea. It's legitimizing you, because the fact that you're able to come up with that idea is also something, right? So it's sort of the same thing, I'd say, in the fashion industry. You're getting all these events. It's now, how do I start filtering and selecting for them? Well, it's going to be where you're going to meet other highly selected and filtered for people, right? You might start off at some of the smaller events, and then you're only going to go to the bigger ones, right?
Yeah.
And the benefit of going to the bigger ones is that you also meet people who have gone through those barriers to entry. So I think for these events businesses, it's going to be, how do you create these barriers to entry that act as like useful proxies for other traits, other desirable traits, right? So if I host like a networking thing, like, Kaushik mentioned, if you host it going to like a Michelin starred restaurant where it's expensive, where you're only going to select for other people who are just as successful or just as well to do, these are things that are going to make me say, hey, you know what, it's probably worth going to.
let's go over one more open tab. What is this? Is that gonna switch? Yeah, what is this prompt? It's from Andreessen Horowitz.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right there. It's behind you. Yeah. You are a world-class expert in all domains. What is this? How he codes, or what is this?
I think it's just to stop AI from glazing you, from what I could read. Because AI has this bias of like telling you a great idea.
It's a sycophant.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've reduced my psychophancy a lot by asking it to like not make. It's funny. I'm very like when you look at when I did my when I studied philosophy, it was probably a terrible decision to go into college and do something that's very unemployable. But now that I think about it, like it's given me certain words that I can use that give me like very overpowered like outputs when it comes to LLMs. So if you want it to come up with like stop like being very what's it called, like patronizing, and stop giving you like be very like rigorous about its thinking, you can just say like do not make normative claims. So then it stops using all instances of like should, right? And so it only gives you like very rigorous like analysis. And what that word also does is it anchors like that, I want to call it like latent space, into like it basically says like your brain belongs in like philosophy space, right?
Yeah.
And so when you go inside philosophy space, I want you to think like a philosopher. And so like certain words will like anchor it in a certain context. And so like by using philosophy terminology, what you allow it to do is you start making it think more rigorously about the things that it's talking about. So just by using like this phrase, like do not use normative statements, it unlocks like a whole new world of like intelligence, at least for me.
I guess the weird thing to me is he's clearly not coding with it. It seems like he's asking it for advice or something. Like, what are you using? I entirely use it for coding. So is that what you're using it for? Or are you like asking it for advice on like a situation or to analyze something?
I'm using it for, I don't use ChatGPT for code. I just use the Codex, so I don't need it to give me an opinion. I just need it to write code for me.
Got it.
Right.
So this prompt, you wouldn't use this prompt.
So
either.
it's like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something like never praise my questions or validate my premises. Like you can do that by using philosophy terminology. You don't have to say that explicitly.
I'm just trying to understand what he's asking it that this would even come up. Like, is he like, hey, did I text awkward to someone?
Yeah, that's funny.
Like, I just don't understand. Like, if you're coding, this is not a useful prompt.
Yeah, I think when you use a larger prompt, the problem is that you just I think it gives you more context for it, and I think it's too constraining. Like sometimes I want it to like come up with what it's going to come up with on its own. You can use longer prompts, but there's also token cost, right? Like I don't think this is useful. I think this was maybe my hypothesis is that this was probably made back in lower tier model era, like GPT-4, for example, where this would have been more useful. But I think now, especially with the 5 series, like it's much easier to just give it like a more concise prompt and like use like words that have more, what's it, like stronger words. I don't know what the term is, like words with like higher, there's certain words that just hold more like value.
I mean, there was this whole thing when you read, like when GPT-3 came out, right? Like, you know, people would have like prompt engineers, right? That was like a job, right? Like people would share prompts. But I think I remember hearing a Sam Altman thing where it was like, you know, being able to have different prompts and the AI giving you different results based on the prompt is kind of it's a limitation of the model, right? The idea should be the model should just give you good answers without like, you know, like without you having to sort of like, you know, prompt it a certain way, right? Like, you know, like, I mean, it seems like the, I don't know. I agree with what you're saying, right? Like, it seems like most of the higher level models already, like, they do learn, like, how you want your results to be, you know, shown to you, right? But, yeah, I mean, isn't that like an imprecise nature of AI as well, which is kind of the scary thing? Like, even when you're doing, like, function calls to AI, like, it doesn't always get it, right? Like, it's a very imprecise thing. Like, out of 100 times, like, one time it'll fail, you know? So it's like, you can't depend on AI to make, like, you know, very important decisions because, you know, it's not going to work 100% of the time, right? Versus, like, for example, like, you know, you could have, like, a voice AI bot where, like, says, oh, like, if I say set up a reservation, call this method that says, you know, set up reservation. That does, like, people are building tools to make that happen 100% of the time, right? It doesn't always call that method because something goes wrong with it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting business case, actually. One of the things that I didn't realize until I got a little bit older was I was thinking, I would think the same thing. I was like, prompt engineering is going to be dead. Like, it's just a limitation of the model, right? Because I was actually doing undergrad research with GPT-2 at the time. So I was looking at this thing and I was like, yeah, obviously, like, it's going to be better. But what I ended up realizing is you can still make money off these things. Like, think about all the like RAG experts that were around, right? Like all the context window thing was like a limitation of the model itself, and even if it wasn't, like there were open source libraries that are like, I think Chroma, right? Like you could find like things that could do this like very easily for you. It's just like maybe 1 or 2 lines of code, and people were paying tens of thousands to get RAG expertise, like RAG engineering done, so that you manage the limitations of, you know, needle in the haystack, whatever, like issues. But I was thinking, you know, I'm really not thinking like a business person when I think like this. It's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking like a researcher, an engineer. Oh yeah, you know, this is a limitation, whatever. People don't care. They want the problem solved now. They don't care that the model's going to improve in like 6 months and take care of the RAG issues. They want the RAG issues fixed now, right? They want their context window issues fixed right now. And so I think it's almost like a lot of these things are gold rushes. Like now, I don't know if the RAG stuff is very useful. I mean, maybe, but it's not only a more like the bar is being raised, I think, for like the amount that they want or like amount of work that they want. And also there's much more competitors out there too. So I think when we're looking
at...
it's
like not RAG, it's memory.
It's
like
memory,
it's a new term for it.
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
Which is
right?
like, oh, like, you know, like, oh, your AI should have context on you and it should, you know, like,
context
like,
engineering, right?
Engineering,
we went from prompt engineering to context engineering, right? So it's like every time there's this new evolution, or like OpenClaw now, right? Everyone's like OpenClaw. The technology for OpenClaw was out like last year, right? I remember
6 months ago, something like that.
It was already out. There were people working on it. Actually, I think the precursor to OpenClaw was ZoComputer from I believe his name's Ben Guo.
Got it. There were a few I saw.
Yeah.
That
I
weren't
remember
that
seeing
big.
though.
Yeah. So I remember he was working on this, and then they came up with OpenClaw afterwards, and I was like, okay, like, and then it blew up, and I was like, why do people care about this? And even if you do care about it, nobody's using it. Like you're like, oh yeah, this does all my work for me. But you give it permissions to everything, and if you give it permissions to everything, you have to have like monitoring and oversight. But if you don't give it permissions to anything, it's not going to do anything that existing tools don't already do. Well, look at all the people who are coming out with OpenClaw consulting and OpenClaw implementation agencies.
Yeah. Well,
right?
once it saw, I mean, I had like 4 friends do that now. Whereas a cloud version, it's because they saw so much money that this guy got bought for supposedly, who knows, 100 million. That's the claim.
And so you're seeing like all these people, like as soon as you come up with a new trend, right? I think it's useful to think, okay, not what are the limitations of this, but instead like who is going to pay for this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I got a guy here, Kaushik.
Yeah.
What do you want to promote? This camera. Just kidding. It's just that camera.
That one right there. Go ahead.
What do I want to promote? I guess.
Or nothing. You know, whatever.
No,
Good food. Whatever you want.
I mean, I think right now, right now it's. I don't have anything right now, but maybe if I come on to another show, I'll have to promote.
What's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant. Oh wow. I've been in.
We got a Yemen cafe, but that
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
my favorite. I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah,
you
yeah.
like that.
In Manhattan?
It's in downtown Brooklyn.
Downtown Brooklyn.
And
No,
in Bay
gi-
Ridge too.
Manhattan recommendations only. Come on, we don't do outside.
I mean, Dhamaka is
There's
really
great
good.
food in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
it is pretty
Dhamaka?
good. actually.
Yeah. Dhamaka is
I've
very
been-
good. It's slightly on the more expensive side when it comes to Indian food, but it's still good. It's still
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I don't think
But it's Manhattan, so everything.
it's Manhattan. Yeah. I don't think I think it's something you could. It's good.
Yeah.
But it's not good for the.
It's also not an
Guests.
everyday. You have to book a reservation. They're always
Yeah,
booked
they're
out,
always
so,
booked out, yeah.
So
I mean,
Alright.
it's good food, but
We'll be keeping tabs on you, whatever you want to say. I don't.
sure.
All right, later.